Tonight on Skyline, the American dream itself is starting to look uncertain for many Indians. Indian students facing massive US visa restriction. Indian tourists slowly pulling back from America, tech workers trapped inside the exploitative H-1B system. AI layoffs spreading, and that too across industries. And at the very same time, Indian entrepreneurs and billion-dollar companies are still pouring billions into the United States. So, what exactly is happening between India and America right now? Let's talk about that. Is this still the land of opportunity for Indians, or is the relationship entering a far more uncomfortable phase? Because, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's stories, they are not just about visas, jobs, or business investment. They are about trust, about ambition, about fear, about survival, and about a generation of Indians slowly questioning whether the American dream still works the way it once did. I'm Driti Atri, this is Skyline. Let's start with the show tonight. The first story, America is now expecting fewer Indians this particular year. That's right, tonight, one of the biggest warning signs for US travel industry is now coming from India itself. The United States is expecting a sharp fall in Indian visitors this particular year, even while overall international tourism to America is projected to grow. Well, according to the US National Travel and Tourism Office, Indian arrivals are expected to decline by more than 4% in 2026. Now, that may sound like a very small number, but for the US, India has become one of the most important international travel market in the world. In 2025, India was fourth largest source of international visitors to America and second largest overseas market after the United Kingdom. But now countries like Japan and Brazil are expected to overtake India, pushing Indians down to sixth place. And you know the reason behind this decline? It reveals something much bigger. Travel experts say that Indian travelers are becoming increasingly hesitant about visiting America. In fact, student visa uncertainty, immigration scrutiny, expensive flights, Air India reducing operations because of global airspace tension, a weakening rupee, rising tension linked to West Asia conflict, everything is adding pressure at the very same time. And this matters because Indian tourism to America, it is not just about vacation anymore. It is deeply connected to education, business, family visit, conferences, and long-term migration dream. Travel agents now say that many Indians are simply reconsidering whether the trip is worth the stress or not. Wait, can you think how dramatic this whole shift is? For years, America represented aspiration for billions of Indians. But now rising expenses, visa opportunity, visa uncertainty, global instability is changing the whole equation. Now, ironically, this decline is happening even as the United States prepares for one of the biggest tourism moments ever, the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The US expects over 7 crore international visitors overall. But Indians, among the fastest growing travel group, they are now pulling back. And that says something important about the current mood. Because sometimes numbers reveal something emotional changed before the politics does. Now, hopping on to our second story, while fewer Indians may now be traveling to America, thousands who already made their journey, they are revealing that what life inside the system actually looks like, it is not something that they dreamt about. A new book called Wild Wild East, it is exposing the harsh reality behind America's H-1B ecosystem, particularly the world of so-called body shop consultancies that recruit Indian tech workers with promises of opportunity, only to trap many inside unstable and exploitative conditions. Well, the discussion around the book moved far beyond simple visa fraud. It focused on something much deeper. Well, a system built on insecurity, uncertainty, dependency, and silence. Author Tanul Thakur described how many workers arrived in the United States expecting career growth, high salary, stability, but instead what they get, they find themselves pushed into cycles of unpaid wages, fake identity modification, constant relocation, and fear of losing visa status. And one story from that particular book, it is specifically heartbreaking. A worker named Kumar said he believed he would earn $1 million within 2 years in America and return home safely. But the moment he landed in the US, he was told there was no project waiting for him. Can you imagine that shock? You leave your country, your family takes pride in your success. You imagine a dream abroad, and then suddenly there is no job for you. Mr. Kumar said that the stress became so intense that he suffered a heart attack. And according to him, the exploitation, it continued for years. 6 different employers, irregular wages, identity changes, and constant instability. But what makes this story powerful is that it does not simply blame one side. The book argues that corporations benefit the most while workers, both Indian and American, they often pushed against each other. In fact, one American IT worker named Vijay reportedly lost opportunity himself and initially blamed migrants. But later, after understanding the whole system, he realized that both American workers and Indian workers were being manipulated by the same corporate structure. Now, that is the uncomfortable truth here. The problem is not simply immigration, the problem is exploitation. And perhaps the most emotional part of this discussion is why workers continue staying inside the system despite suffering. Many take loan, support family, wait years for their green card, and slowly begin accepting exploitation as new normal. One line from the whole discussion stood out. Some choose what feels like enslavement in the US over freedom in India. And that sentence alone, it explains the emotional complexity of the migration today. And while some Indians struggle inside America's system, others are completely rewriting what success looks like. Meet Pooja Bhavishi, an Indian origin entrepreneur who built $2.8 million a year ice cream company in the United States using Indian flavors that most Americans had never experienced before. Well, our company is called Malai, and the story behind it, it feels almost cinematic. No food industry background, no restaurant empire, no celebrity investor, just an idea and an emotional connection to Indian flavor. Now, before launching the business, she studied urban planning at the London School of Economics and worked in the non-profit world. But you know what? During a dinner party in 2014, she served homemade Indian flavor ice cream to her friends. And their reaction, it changed everything. People kept on saying the same thing. We have never tasted anything like this ever before. That moment became the beginning of Malai. Instead of copying traditional American flavors, she leaned fully into Indian ingredients. Cardamom, saffron, rose, nutmeg. Flavors millions of Indians grow up with emotionally. And slowly, she turned those childhood memories into a business. But you know what? The journey, it was brutal. She made ice cream from her own kitchen, sold scoops at outdoor markets, used campaign freezers, collected customers' feedback personally, packed online orders herself. At one stage, she reportedly took nearly $200,000 in credit card debt just to open her first permanent store in Brooklyn. Imagine the pressure. One failed month could have destroyed everything for her. But today Malai operates stores across New York, across Washington DC and other parts. Around 80% of its revenue reportedly comes from physical stores, all of which are profitable. And you know what makes this story so powerful is not just money. It is cultural shift. Indian flavors that were once treated as ethnic, now they are becoming mainstream American desserts. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is influence, that is soft power, and that is how immigrant entrepreneurship quietly changes a country, and that too from inside. And yes, while entrepreneurs are building new businesses, America's education system is now confronting a completely different fear: artificial intelligence. Business schools across the United States are suddenly offering huge discounts, scholarships, flexible programs because applications are slowing down, and that too dramatically. And you know what is the reason behind that? Well, because workers, they no longer feel secure enough to leave their jobs for traditional MBA program. And AI is at the center of that particular fear. For decades, MBA degrees represented ambition, career switch. In fact, leadership, upward mobility, people left their jobs very confidently, spent huge amount of business schools and expected higher salaries afterwards. But now the atmosphere, it is changing completely. Workers are asking difficult questions. What if AI changes my industry before I graduate? What if my job disappears? What if spending 2 years outside the workforce, it becomes risky? And universities are reacting very aggressively. In fact, one of the universities reportedly cut online MBA tuition fee by 40%. Another one is offering discounts as high as 38%. Johns Hopkins, it launched massive scholarship. Washington University even introduced a special scholarship specifically for workers affected by AI disruption. Can you think how dramatic this is? America's most prestigious business institutions are now openly marketing themselves around fear of AI replacement. It's a huge loss for them. Schools are now redesigning courses, and that too around artificial intelligence, automation, future workforce survival, because demand itself is changing. Many professionals no longer want long, expensive degrees. They want faster skills. They want safe career option, flexible learning, and stable employment. Even international demand is weakening, by the way. Foreign workers are increasingly considering countries that are closer to their homes because of visa concern, political uncertainty, rising cost in the United States. And this is creating a larger shift inside America's education economy itself. Because for years, international students helped fuel the US universities financially. Now that model, it is starting to face a lot of pressure, which is bad for both the workers as well as the universities. Amid all these larger debates about visas, careers, opportunity, one Indian family tonight is simply praying for answers. A 25-year-old merchant navy officer from India has mysteriously gone missing near a port in Pennsylvania. His name is Manish Dwivedi, and the story it is deeply unsettling. Ladies and gentlemen, according to his family, Manish had last contacted them on May 7th after his vessel safely docked near Philadelphia. Well, the message itself, it was completely normal. He simply told his family the ship had arrived safely. Well, that was the last time they heard from him. Later, the shipping company informed the entire family that Manish had reportedly gone missing after leaving the vessel with two fellow officers to visit a shopping mall near the port area. Since then, no phone call, no message, no trace, and his family back home, they are vulnerable. The silence, it has become unbearable for them. His family says Manish always stayed connected during work trips. Daily calls, regular updates, constant communication, and then suddenly everything stopped. Manish had spent 6 years working in the merchant navy. He was trained in Mumbai and he worked on international assignments across different countries. Earlier this particular year, he had even returned home briefly before leaving again in April for another assignment in the United States. Now his family is desperately approaching officials for any sort of help. Meetings with political leaders, requests to the Ministry of External Affairs, appeal to the Indian Embassy in America, because when an Indian citizen suddenly disappears abroad, families often feel completely powerless. And beyond the headline, this particular story reflects a deeper emotional reality faced by many migrants' family. Well, when loved ones work internationally, distant itself, it becomes a constant anxiety. One missed call, it can suddenly become very, very terrifying. Now coming back to the AI, while AI is already reshaping universities and career, it is now directly eliminating jobs inside major tech companies too. Innovator, a US-based health tech unicorn founded by an Indian-origin entrepreneur, Abhinav Shashank, has reportedly laid off about 340 employees across India and the United States. And the internal message sent by the CEO, it shocked many workers online. The subject line reportedly read, "Moving forward as an AI native company." Now that particular phrase alone, it explains why the company is heading towards this particular direction. According to reports, this marks this company's third round of layoffs in 4 years. And Mr. Shashank, he openly linked the reconstructing to the artificial intelligence driven operation. In the message, he kind of acknowledged the emotional weight of the layoffs, writing that affected employees had helped build the company through very difficult phases. But the larger reality, it remained unavoidable. Roles were ending because companies increasingly believe that AI can now perform tasks once handled by human workers. And wait, this is becoming one of the defining fear of modern tech industry. For years, technology created jobs faster than it destroyed them. But AI is changing that whole equation. Now, companies are not just adding AI tools, they are reconstructing entire organizations around them. In fact, this company, Innovaco itself operates in healthcare data system and analytics. Here, precisely the kind of sector where automation and AI integration are rapidly escalating. And you know what makes this even more emotional for Indian professionals is the timing here. For decades, tech represented stability for middle class Indian families. Be it anyone, engineering degrees, coding jobs, American startups, in fact, H-1B dreams. Those paths once symbolized security. But now, even highly skilled workers are watching AI disrupt the very industries that they trusted the most. And tonight, one phrase is quietly spreading fear across the tech world: AI native company. Because workers everywhere are now asking the same question: if companies become AI native, where do humans fit in? Hopping on to the seventh segment, while AI fear and economic uncertainty are already shaking confidence in the American dream, Indian students are now facing another brutal reality. Getting into the United States itself, it is becoming dramatically harder. According to reports, Indian students applying for US F1 visas are facing rejection rate as high as 60 to 70%. Can you think about that for a second? Out of every 10 Indian students dreaming of studying in America, nearly 6 or 7 may have been rejected. And this warning, it is not coming from critics online. Well, it was highlighted publicly by former US Ambassador to India, Mr. Richard Verma himself. At a major policy event, Mr. Verma, he openly acknowledged that Indian students are facing unusually high barriers while other countries, they are aggressively trying to attract them. And you know this particular message, it was blunt. Australia, Japan, South Korea, Germany, they all want Indians, and that too very desperately. And that single sentence, it says everything about global competition for Indian talent right now. Because for decades, America was considered the ultimate destination for ambitious Indian students, specifically in science, engineering, technology, and business. Indian families sacrificed their savings, sold their properties, took education loan, and built entire future around the dream of American universities. But now that particular atmosphere, it is changing, and that too really fast. Visa scrutiny is intensifying. Immigration fear are growing. Political debates around migration are becoming harsher. And many Indian students are suddenly realizing that talent alone, it may no longer be always guaranteed the opportunity. Well, the numbers themselves are alarming, by the way. Reports suggest Indian student visa refusal rate have risen sharply over the past few years, from roughly 36% in 2023 to more than 60% now. And the emotional impact, that's enormous, because for middle class Indian families, a US admission letter, it is not just an economic opportunity. It often represents years of sacrifice, social prestige, family ambition, and financial risk. And now many students are beginning to ask one difficult question: should we still bet everything on America? And in the meantime, other countries are moving quickly. Germany is expanding English language program. In fact, Japan and South Korea are opening more and more opportunities for the foreign students. Australia and the UK, they continue competing aggressively for global talent, and specifically the Indians. So tonight, the United States, it may still remain very powerful, but it is no longer the only dream in the market. That may become one of the biggest global shifts of this decade. And while students and workers are growing uncertainty about America, Indian businesses are doing something completely different. They are investing billions into the US economy. That's right. At the Select USA Investment Summit 2026, Indian companies announced more than $20.5 billion in investment across multiple American states. Well, from pharmaceuticals, manufacturing to AI, infrastructure, and advanced technology. Can you think about the contrast here? At the people level, anxiety is rising. But at the corporate level, India's presence in America, it is becoming even bigger. Pharmaceutical companies alone account for more than $19 billion for those investments. Sun Pharma is planning a massive acquisition of a company in New Jersey. Companies like Cipla, in fact, Dr. Reddy, every company that is linked to pharmaceutical, they are all are expanding operations in America. And this is not just about profit anymore. It is about influence. Well, Indian firms are becoming deeply connected to America's healthcare system, manufacturing network, and supply chain. In the meantime, Indian industrial giants are also expanding aggressively. JSW Steel is modernizing facility in Ohio and Texas. New manufacturing plants are becoming planned across multiple states. Technology companies are investing in AI infrastructure, telecom system, and advanced digital platform. Even IIT Madras is establishing research hubs in California. Wait, let's pause here for a moment. An Indian institute building research collaboration centers inside America itself. Well, that tells you how much India's global economy position has really changed over time. And this creates a very fascinating contradiction for a moment. At one level, ordinary Indians are becoming more nervous about visas, jobs, cost, and migration uncertainty in America, right? But at another level, Indian corporations are becoming more and more powerful, more confident, and more deeply embedded inside the American economy than ever before. You know what it means? It means that India-US relationship, it is evolving into something much more complicated than a simple migration tree. This is no longer just a story of Indians who are going to America for an opportunity anymore. Now it is also a story of Indian companies helping shape parts of America's future itself. And perhaps, ladies and gentlemen, that is the biggest transformation of all. Tonight's stories may seem very different on surface. Fewer Indians traveling to America, H-1B workers trapped in exploitative system, Indian entrepreneurs building million-dollar businesses, a fear reshaping universities and job, a missing Indian officer creating panic for one family, tech layoffs that are spreading, students who are facing massive visa rejection, and Indian corporation investing billions across the United States. But underneath all these headlines, one big question it is quietly emerging. What does the American dream actually mean for Indians in 2026? Because the relationship is definitely changing. The excitement is still there, the ambition is still there. But now there is also caution, fear, competition, and growing uncertainty. For decades, America represented stability, success, and aspiration for Indian families. But tonight, that dream, it looks more complicated than ever before, and maybe that is a real story. I am Driti Atri. This is Skyline. See you tomorrow.